Recep Tayyip Erdoğan is a well-known political leader of Turkey. He has been president since 2014. His course at the head of the government, and now the state, has an ambiguous assessment in the world. Some are sure that it was only thanks to Erdogan that Turkey was reincarnated from a parliamentary republic into a presidential one, while others do not rule out that the Turkish leader intends to turn the country into an Islamic state. Watch this video until the end to find out how Recep Tayyip Erdoğan lives, about his personal life and how much he earns. Well, before starting, like, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell. Let's go. Recep Tayyip Erdoğan was born on February 26, 1954 in Istanbul, Turkey's largest city. He spent his childhood and adolescence in the city of Rize, where his father Ahmet and mother Tenzil were from. When asked about his nationality, Recep likes to repeat the words of his parents. First of all, he is a Muslim. Although once, in a conversation with Georgian journalists, the president mentioned Ajarian roots. Later, at home, the head of state denied his own words. The family of the future president of Turkey lived modestly, as his father worked in a low-paid job in the Coast Guard, and his mother was engaged in raising children. As a result, young Recep Tayyip had to earn extra money. He sold buns and lemonade on the unsafe streets of the city, which tempered the boy's character and helped to form clear life positions. In 1965, after graduating from the Piale Pasa Elementary School, Erdoğan entered the religious Lyceum Imam Hatip Lisesi, where the teachers noted the special religiosity of the student, which his family brought up in him. In his youth, Recep became interested in football secretly from his father, who did not approve of this sport. The young man was considered a semi-professional player, and the leadership of the Fenerbahce football club even intended to sign a contract with him. After graduating from the Lyceum and passing additional exams, Recep Tayyip managed to continue his education. He entered the Faculty of Economics of Marmara University, from which he successfully graduated in 1981. The future Turkish leader began to engage in politics during the student period of his biography. In 1975, he organized the youth movement of the pro-Islamist National Salvation Party in Beyoğlu, after which he received his first promotion and headed the branch of the party in Istanbul. Along with this, Erdoğan worked as a manager in a private business, but after the military coup in 1980, he lost his job due to political activities. As a result, in 1982 he went to serve in the army, and upon his return from the service he again set his sights on politics. In the first days of his presidency, Recep Tayyip announced that he would adhere to a policy of solving the problems of religious and national minorities, as well as resolving acute situations in the Middle East region. At the same time, he promised the people a new future, which would proceed exclusively from the principle of social reconciliation. The president of Turkey also continued the reformist policy aimed at modernizing the country's economy, liberalizing the political and public life of citizens. His reforms were aimed at joining the EU, but in 2015 this acute issue discussed for several decades took a different direction. The Turkish leadership was no longer sure that the country needed the EU, as Erdogan personally stated. A separate achievement of Recep Tayyip was the strengthening of Turkish-Russian relations. Since 2002, the trade turnover between the two countries has increased almost 10 times, and between Ankara and Moscow 17 agreements were signed in the field of energy, army and transport, including visa-free regime for tourists. In the fall of 2015, Erdogan paid a visit to Moscow, where, together with Vladimir Putin and the head of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas, he became a guest at the opening ceremony of the Moscow Cathedral Mosque after its reconstruction. The event was also attended by the heads of Russian regions, Ramzan Kadyrov, Rustam Minikhanov, Yunus Bektyevkarov, Ramazan Abdullatipov, as well as the mayor of the capital, Sergei Sobyanin. Already in November 2015, relations between Russia and Turkey deteriorated sharply due to the downing of a Russian Su-24 bomber on the border with Syria. As a result, the Russian leadership did not rule out the termination of relations with Ankara, as it considered the actions taken as a planned provocation at the suggestion of the United States. Alienation followed in the sphere of economic and political cooperation between the two countries. In order to restore relations, Moscow demanded that Turkey fulfill 3 conditions: an official confession of guilt, punishment of the participants in the action, and payment of compensation to the relatives of the deceased and injured military. The leader of Turkey has fulfilled only the first condition so far. Over time, relations between the two states returned to their previous course. Turkey continued to implement joint economic and energy projects, one of which is the construction of a transit gas pipeline. In 2016, another shock awaited the country. An attempt was made to overthrow the Turkish military military bloc. Erdogan named Islamist leader Fethullah Gulen as the organizer of the rebellion. The president's entourage quickly reacted to the danger. The leader of the state, who was vacationing in the resort of Marmaris, promptly arrived in Istanbul. It took 2 weeks to suppress the uprising. 26,000 people were arrested. After the coup, Erdogan initiated the return of the death penalty, which incurred the wrath of the European Union. The visa-free regime with the EU countries was cancelled. In March 2019, it became known that US leader Donald Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which the Muslim world did not agree with. Erdogan could not but react to this step on the part of the United States. The Turkish leader said that in this case, the Christian shrine, the Hagia Sophia, located on the territory of Istanbul, he will be forced to give the status of a mosque. He fulfilled his intention in July 2020. Sophia Cathedral, which functioned as a museum since 1935, became a mosque, as in the days of the Ottoman Empire. These actions have drawn criticism from UNESCO, EU countries and Christian churches. The president is pleased with the economic course he follows in his domestic policy. Thanks to Erdogan's actions, product exports peaked in 2021 and amounted to $221 billion in monetary terms. GDP growth is no less impressive and has reached double digits, which is why Tayyip rightfully calls his homeland the rising star of the 21st century. Erdogan's personal life is not as eventful as his political career. The president of Turkey is married to Emine Gulburan, who since 1978 has been supporting her husband on his difficult path to power. Like most first ladies of world countries, the wife of an official is engaged in charity work, for which she was awarded honorary prizes. 4 children grew up in the family of the Turkish leader, sons Necmettin Bilal and Ahmet Burak, as well as 2 daughters, Esra and Sume. Erdogan's sons are known to work in the oil business and own at least 10 oil tankers. The daughters of the president followed in the footsteps of their mother. They do charity work and protect the rights of women in their country. The Erdogan family lives in the Saray presidential palace, built on the outskirts of Ankara. According to Western sources, the structure includes 1,000 rooms, which makes it larger than the US White House. Erdogan still surprises the citizens of the country with a smart figure. Thanks to the excellent physical training that he received at a young age, now his weight, with a height of 183 centimeters, does not exceed 97 kilograms. In personal photos, the leader of the nation looks spectacular. The president of Turkey is trying to keep up with the times. He is registered on social networks, including Instagram. Posts dedicated to the president's grandchildren often appear here. According to the leader of the nation, every second spent with children makes the world a better place. Recep Tayyip is trying to monitor his health, but his condition periodically causes concern among doctors. At the end of 2017, while at the morning service at the Mimar Sinan Mosque, the president fainted, which frightened the worshippers. For several minutes, the head of state was unconscious due to high blood sugar. When he came to his senses, he asked those around him not to worry. Erdogan's rating in the country began to fall due to the changing economic situation, not for the better. The exchange rate of the local currency, the lira, rushed down, which became a threat to the politician as the leader of the country. Help came from Russia in August 2022, when Vladimir Putin proposed to the Turkish president to abandon the calculation in dollars when importing goods. The heads of state came to such an agreement at a joint meeting in Sochi. At the same time, the Turkish leader confirmed that he considers Crimea to be Ukrainian according to international law. The return of the peninsula, he said, is a matter of time. At a meeting with Alexander Vučić a month later, Erdogan denounced the Western policy, which he called provoking the parties through the supply of weapons to Ukrainian troops. At the talks with the head of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, Recep Tayyip confirmed that he supports the sovereignty and independence of the state. He called the country brotherly and expressed hope for eternal cooperation. Turkey could not stay away from the military conflict that unfolded between Russia and Ukraine. Erdogan has occupied the niche of a peacemaker, helping to resolve relations between the two neighbors. This position adds points to him in the internal ranking. Thus, Recep Tayyip became the guarantor of the grain deal, which almost failed because of Russia's fears that Ukraine would use sea corridors for military maneuvers. In November 2022, an explosion occurred in the center of Istanbul on one of the busiest tourist streets, Istiklal. Several people died. The number of victims is estimated in tens. Erdogan saw signs of a terrorist attack in the incident. According to the president, a woman from the PKK was involved in the explosion. Friends, who do you think is cooler than Recep Tayyip Erdoğan or Vladimir Putin? Write in the comments. If you liked the video, like, subscribe to the DA Studio channel and click on the bell.